Hi, everyone. Welcome to Builder's Mind podcast. In this episode, we're going to have Niels. He's the founder and CTO of Ivy. Ivy is a AI platform building internal tools for enterprise companies. In this episode, we're going to talk about Niels' journey into building. Has two successful exits, one IPO, one acquisition by private equity. Now he's building Ivy, which is based in Stockholm, Sweden. We're going to do a live demo of building a simple internal tool for Builder's Mind podcast. We're going to talk about go-to-market strategies for Ivy and how to sell to developers and companies. And in the end, we are asking him lots of interesting questions about his journey of building, lessons learned, but also some advice to first-time founders. So let's enjoy the episode. Hi, Niels.
Good.
Welcome to Builder's Mind podcast.
Hi, Jahid. Thanks you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Looking at your startup journey, it seems that like you had quite a success so far. You had one IPO, you had one exit to a like private equity. So if you can walk us through your startup and building journey and what was the starting point for you and how has it been so far?
Yeah, cool. I've always been very passionate about programming. I started programming when I was 13 and got completely hooked. It's really the way I am creative is through coding. And I started early and I started helping other startups or doing different customer projects. And then at university, I met my first co-founder, Jonas, and we created a company called Mobic Gear that was like handling software sales for the smartphones of that era. And you kind of get like the entrepreneurial bug, and it's difficult to get rid of. Yeah, I've worked 3 years for Motorola as an employee, but otherwise than that, I've always been building my own companies, and it's really the most fun thing you can do with your life is just building companies. And yeah, I do it for free without the potential of making money on it. It's just so fun.
Yeah, like it has a kind of crazy drive. Like once you're an entrepreneur, and you just get it, like you just get addictive to it. So and just like I want to build whatever it is, or kind of like whatever it takes. You started coding age of 13. So can you like maybe like tell us? Do you think that the definition of coding and programming has changed because of AI? And how would you define programming now?
Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing now or what we are experiencing is like the biggest productivity shift humanity has never ever had. And for me, I do like the task of coding, but it's just what's more is the code, what coding enables me. And that's to get my ideas realized. And you kind of become more and more when you work with AI, you become more and more of a productivity nerd and just want to get as much out of your time as possible. And that's like, yeah, with AI, I can now code 10 times faster than I did before. And that means I can get 10 times more of my ideas realized. And that is a really addictive feeling. So yeah, I mean, that is what it gives to me.
Yeah, but also I think because now I'm learning the basic of coding, and I feel that like coding and like programming is more of a kind of execution mindset. Like how do you approach the problem? And then I think like writing the code itself is the smallest part of like programming in general. So it's like logical way of how would you execute this kind of the product or kind of like the idea, and then the part doing it, it's more of kind of 10-20 minute kind of the coding overall. And I feel kind of now with AI, that's kind of like where the main focus is. It does the job, but you have to still think about the processes, the logic, and other things, just like to make it more sense. I mean, talking of Ivy, so can you tell us how did you come up with the idea, and if you can shortly pitch what it is?
Yep. I mean, building Ivy is sort of scratching my own itch. So I've been CTO for at least 6 different companies, and throughout my career, I always built a lot of my own internal tools. Like both at the first time testing, there's no like off the shelf CRM that would do all the things that we needed for those industries. So I always built my own, and I always like I have many examples in my career where I've just seen how powerful it is as an organization. If you can have a team meeting in the morning, let's say in a growth team, and you come up with this idea of an activity, and if you can be really, really efficient in getting the IT support quickly done for that idea, and you can then test more and more ideas, that can be really, really powerful. So I've always been in all of my companies, as my old colleagues, they say Niels is the like internal tool guy. I always been thinking about how to do it like every given time in history, like what is the best tool to use. I've tried all of the frameworks. The one time at testing, we did a lot of work with like the no code era. I did work with like a lot of Airtable and Retool. Uh, and those are great for doing some quick things fast, but you always kind of end up, I always had a feeling that, okay, this is like adds to my technical depth. Um, there's always something that where you get stuck, you can't add a specific feature, they become really expensive after a while if you add more and more of your colleagues to use the tools. And then as we got like Gen AI became popular, I really realized that, okay, maybe we should create these applications using code again instead of, because these no code tools are really just abstractions, and LLMs are not that good at filling out a generic abstraction. They're a lot better to just generate pure code. And you can, when it generates code, you can give it access to a lot of powerful tools like language servers or compilers, so that sort of things. So just a realization that, okay, internal tools should be written in code again. I did a lot before starting Ivy. I did a lot of work on just like traditional machine learning. I found the framework called Streamlit in the Python space. But I'm a .NET guy, but I really liked how Streamlit worked, like super easy. You can code in pure Python. It handles state in the backend, and there's like a precompiled React frontend that you never have to touch, and just make it super easy to get anything from like from a database onto the screen. So that's really the first like idea around Ivy. Can I reproduce Streamlit into and really like cool, useful feature benefit of handling state on the server is that it also eliminates the security issue you have with a lot of LLM generated code. So a lot of the prototype builders of the world, they create a two-layer like front and back end, and it's quite easy for that structure to be insecure. Like if you vibe code too much and you just like LLM aims to please, so you can easily vibe code your way into something insecure. And some companies, they have like the security review agent to patch that problem. But with Ivy, we've completely removed that problem. So an application created in the Ivy framework does not have the problem. It cannot leak any API keys, for example, that sort of thing. So those are the two legs that we stand on for a while. Like how do we create like secure data-driven applications, and how do we make something that's, that has all the building blocks from a no-code tool like Retool, for example, but the interface is in code. So we call it, instead of no code, we call it yes code. Yeah.
Yeah. I think kind of like that's an interesting angle because like everyone is going, like more towards no code and AI, and kind of like you're coming with yes code. So like you're building this platform to build internal tools for enterprise, which are being used by developers inside those companies. True?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's true. Yeah, I know some companies say that they create tools for the 99% that can't code. Then we focus on the 1% that can code. So all of our tools are aimed at developers. We are situated where the developers work. So we are in your terminal, or we integrate with Claude Code or whatever coding agents that you use. And should add also that we are the framework that we created is 100% open source, and the product is an AI agent that can create applications on top of that uses the Ivy framework to build internal applications.
Yeah, I think it will be the best time to like do a live demo and kind of build something with Ivy and see its full potential.
Let's do it. Sharing my screen. Okay, so you can find our open source framework on GitHub. Please give us a star. You install using just one simple command. You can just install Ivy as in your terminal. And I created an empty folder here, and I will start a new Ivy application. It will ask me for a namespace that it picks up from the. Okay, now we have an empty folder. Just type Ivy in it.
Can you tell us like what you will kind of like what do you want to build as an internal tool for builder's mind?
So I will build for you an internal tool to manage the podcast.
Okay.
It will have like episode guests, outreach, and sponsors. That was my plan.
Let's do that.
You want me to build something else?
No. It sounds cool. I don't have that tool yet.
Do you need one?
Yes.
So there's a different paths of how you can start an Ivy app after Ivy init. In most cases, you just like type Ivy.db add and you have a database that so like our elevator pitch is like, you have a database, we can generate an entire back office based on top of that, like in a few minutes. But from a demo perspective, it's a lot more fun to start from scratch and just create a database. And here we have the IVDB generate. I would open this all runs locally, but it will open a small web tool. And I will use SQLite here as my database just because it's simple. And here I can just describe, okay, what is the type of database schema that I want to create? And I'm just saying here, database to manage podcasts with entities, episode guests, outreach, and sponsors. And now it will first create a intermediary database schema called DBML.
Yeah.
And here I don't know what happens with my screen, but yeah.
All right, it's all good.
We can edit here if we want to remove something, for example, we can just remove something. But that looks fine. And now it will make a plan. And it will say like, what of the tables here are things that is a main table, and some things are just like a support table or like sub table. But it's a episode, guest, outreach, sponsors, and it will always also include a dashboard. So this looks fine. If we want, we can go in and give additional instructions, but this looks okay. And we also want it to fill the database with seed the data. So now it will first generate the database, the code that will run once to create the database and fill it with like the bogus data that we asked it to do. And then it will actually jump to the step where it adds the database to the project, and it will generate each of these apps. And this takes around 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And we can, instead of just waiting 5 minutes, I will actually just show you the one that I created just this morning, which was in the other folder. So here it created, it's a simple .NET app, easy to, you own the code. It's very easily Dockerized, and I just do the .NET Watch. Seems I forgot how to type. So here it created
That's the database, the
an
tables.
interface for, based on the tables. So it can easily here change. So it's crawlable, like a crawl for all those tables. So we had one for guests. We have a dashboard. I had tried to figure out like what is the KPIs for this database. And this is Ivy. If we now want to, we can easily add Ivy off. We can add a authentication provider. Either like one basic one that we built, or if you want to use like Supabase, for example. And when you've done that, you can easily do Ivy deploy, and you can deploy this application to one of the 3 big cloud providers, or you can deploy it to a German small one that's called Sliplane. That's like makes it super easy, that we like to use. And yeah, that's basically Ivy. If you go to samples.ivy.app, here we have built a bunch of stuff that the framework itself, okay, that one was of course not configured with an AI key, but it is very easy to create agentic interfaces as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
And is there any kind of like limit on the kind of like the capacity of these apps? Like for example, how like big amount of data they can handle, or is it like really kind of unlimited like capability for these apps which are built?
There is no limit of these capabilities. It's in the end, the Ivy framework is just like a replacement to React, for example, or like that. We've taken a lot of inspiration from Streamlit, as I said, that is very good at handling a lot of data in like showing a lot of data on the screen with good performance. We are now this week releasing what we call data tables that we'll be able to handle millions of rows. I have a very early demo for that here. Tables. I think, okay, now this demo doesn't show it, but we can easily handle millions of rows and get it easily from the database and just stream it to the screen. So that's something that that's coming this week that will be really good for that.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Niels. Looks amazing. Perfect. So it seems that it's quite easy to build, internal tools now. So kind of my question is that like who are the competitors in this space? And yeah, and are there many of them out there?
I mean, you can group the competitors in different groups. I'd say one group is the low code companies. Then you have the prototype builders. You'd also have like a competitor in companies just building back end and the front end in React. I'd say we're mostly targeting the no code space and like offering a new solution there. There's a lot of AI and like agentic solutions that they offer products that generates TypeScript or Python. In the .NET space, we're quite alone so far. And I mean, .NET is kind of looked down upon a little bit if you talk to the cool kids. Actually, I have a fun story. I talked to an investor and he said, I asked a friend, and that friend said like, no, nobody's using .NET anymore, and everybody's just using TypeScript and Python. And I completely disagree, of course, but I took it to Reddit and I told the story on Reddit, and that's like that story went viral. So I had like I think almost 1 million views and 700 comments, all saying that my investor is doesn't know what he's talking about. So, but I mean, 80% of Fortune 500 companies are using .NET for their internal for building software, and nobody's targeting this space except us.
But also kind of like from the demo, I saw that there's still, a part of this being done with AI, for example, like the database, and like other steps are kind of like being done with AI. But also, of course, like you use this terminal to code and then kind of ask things, but it's still kind of AI is doing the majority of like the work for the developers here.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to sales and marketing, I think kind of like, selling to like developers is the hardest things. Also, I think when you're selling a dev tool, like you're talking with the executive, but kind of like the users are like the like developers. So how is the sales processes and like how is it going for you guys? Like what's the playbook? If you can share a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on. I mean, this is like build a new framework and then go to a developer and say, hey, I built a new framework. Would you please use it and then pay me a little bit for it? That's like super hard. They say like, nah, come back when when you've been around for a while, you have 20,000 stars on GitHub, you'd like have to be super polished, that sort of thing. So we want to end up there where we're like product-led growth, bottom up, where developers find us for the next project. And we want to build a community of developers that participate in the open source framework. And then on the other side, you say, okay, well, let's go a little bit. We call it middle out sales, like try to find the people in the middle and try to sell to them. And they maybe not really understand the problem space of like, if you say, I have this AI enabled coding framework, and they can also be very difficult. So right now we're very young as a company, and we need to battle test our framework. And so what we are currently doing is that we're selling solutions. So if we have what we call a program called Ivy Inclusive, where we just like, let's say we take a customer that gets stuck with Retool and we offer to port it to Ivy for a small fee. And then we just take care of the maintenance of that application and just so that we can battle test our framework and just dog food. So we're doing quite a lot of that, just selling solutions. There's been a bit of a talk and like from us as well, but just like now the cost of creating software is going to zero. And I think there is a lot of exciting opportunity in that movement. So suddenly software that companies could afford or was not reasonable to build before is now suddenly the whole build versus buy, that the equation is just changing quite a lot. And I think for quite a lot of legacy SaaS, if you have a legacy SaaS that's just a simple CRUD, I think you will have a bit of problem in the future. But there's some SaaS that is like take Fort Knox or something, like a big accountancy software. You will probably not vibe code your own version of that. But what you would do is create like custom adaptations on top of it. So like if a normal SaaS is like a one size fits all solution, but many of them have like very good APIs, then you can create like your custom. So take this example of Fort Knox. So this is one thing that we're offering right now to build. Let's say your company has a very specific way how to send invoices, and the way the UI that Fort Knox has is not a good fit. It takes too long, too many clicks to press to get to the finished invoice. Like we have an agent that can create this Fort Knox application on top of their API. So this is something that we want to do for multiple ecosystems, just like having like Salesforce as a single point of truth, but then you can have your own processes customized, and we've just taken down the cost of that with a tenth, with
Mhm.
a lot lower. So that's things that we want to do. Like,
Like, what are some of like the main use cases like for the solutions that like you're offering now?
yeah, I mean it's a lot. Just let's say you have an admin for your company where you want to maybe integrate your CRM with also your customer view of like what features are they using, what subscription do they have. It's like a unified admin, and normally you've these type of admins are not the things that developers like the most to develop, and that's where we can step in and for a very small cost build something that just takes your existing database and just generates a full backend. um, so we do quite a lot of that. We do some finance type of applications like dashboards that just collect data from different sources and just do dashboards. We do quite a lot of porting of, as I said, of like retool apps, of Airtable apps. We have a few customers that have like they built the whole business on Excel. Like
Hmm.
we talk to like $1 billion companies and they have their whole sales process in one shared Excel file. So we've done some work there where we have a module that we can take an Excel file. We will, using AI, we will port it into a database of their choice, and then we will generate the same features but in Ivy for that customer, and they can have a proper app. Those projects before were quite risky and usually failed because of the cost was just skyrocketing. But we can do those projects in a few days. So yeah, I mean, you can use Ivy for everything. We kind of feel that we draw the line. You would not use Ivy for like a marketing web page or for like build a mobile app, for example, but anything that's like behind the login. So
Okay.
internal tools or customer portals or stuff like that. We did a very interesting project with the Swedish social services in collaboration with some researchers from Lund University, where they had created an AI model to analyze the talks between a client and a government worker. And they built the whole interface in Ivy. So yeah, you can use Ivy for many
Yeah.
things.
Because like what you're kind of like describing, for me is that brings some thoughts around end at end that, like Ivy kind of is doing some part of that as well, like simple automations, agents, which you call. Both for me, like it seems that like you guys are doing, like some tasks of like Salesforce. So my question is that do you feel that, at some point Ivy will become, the standalone tool for the whole internal processes, and it will handle, the accounting, the finance, the marketing, the outreach. So it will be kind of, a solution for all the business operations, or kind of like all the aspects of the business.
Yeah, I
Follow
mean,
me?
you can definitely use it for that, but I mean, in the end, we are a user interface company. We make it super easy to create user interfaces. So it's just like instead of doing it with setting up a backend with a React front end, you use Ivy to make like a similar experience, but just so much faster and with code that is actually nice for a developer to continue working on. It's nice for an LLM to contribute to. We like to say that we support three different groups of people. Like we want to create really nice user experiences. User interface should always like look nice, and it should be nice to work with. Now we have a lot of standard admin look and feel, but we want to add a lot of AI assisted things to it. So like if you build an Ivy app, it should also like on our to-do list is like an Ivy app is also automatically an MCP server. So anything you can do in the Ivy app, you can also do with an MCP. So big focus on like how do we make this experience nice for the actual end user, but we also focus on the developers. Like the developer experience should be top notch, from tooling, but also to, if you look at the code, how nice is it to work, do really powerful things with a few lines of code. And then the third that that you remember, we heard it first, but I call it LLM experience. And it's
Mm-hmm.
that's like, how do we design a framework so that when you have an LLM coding in it, it should make as few mistakes as possible. So we created our agent in side by side when also creating the framework. And if we see that an LLM does a lot of similar mistakes over and over, we can adapt the framework and have them hand in hand and just make it so that the LLM is as successful as possible in creating these applications. There's a lot of design decisions that we made in the framework that just so that the LLM are more successful.
Yeah, because it's still kind of, you cannot trust LLMs that they will do like what you ask. So if you can control them, then they can go wherever they want. My day-to-day job is vibe coding and selling the software for that. So, and I see that, like lots of companies are more of, like welcoming the idea of that, everyone in the company should be able to build something and then make the process very efficient. And somehow I see the feeling of that they want to cut the developer like headcounts in general, and then let anyone to be self-dependent, and then like they go unbuilt. So my question is just like out of curiosity, is that do you see some pushback from companies that they really want to ask their non-technical team members to use Ivy?
I think we think like maybe a bit of a like old school approach to like okay, me personally, I think if an application is to be secure, the
Yeah.
person that creates it has to understand codes. I think it's like wonderful that a lot of more we can democratize application development to a lot more. A lot more people can use these prototype coding tools to get experience of being creative with coding. But the end, like the type of applications we create in Ivy is not like the exciting stuff, but it's like the things that handle salaries and contracts
Yeah,
and
yeah.
payments and stuff. You really want to have that secure. So like if you go into a room and you ask like, okay, who has tried Lovable, for example, and everybody will raise their hands. And then you will ask, okay, but okay, who of you will feel comfortable connecting what you created there with your production software? A lot of hands will go down. I think most of them. And so, and I think there's a big conflict today in many companies where you've had like product manager or business people, they've created applications using vibe coding tools. And then they go to the development department and they say, hey, can you please just put it into the product or into production? You get a conflict there because as a developer, usually you'd kind of just like, okay, that's nice, but it's a little bit better than a Figma sketch. But we have to like start from scratch because that code is not really like code.
Usable.
Uh, like all code that's created has to be maintained, and that's often forgotten in today's discussion. And I think there is a lot of code that's perfectly fine generated with vibe coding, but then there's code that's really like, okay, it cannot fail. We cannot have a security issue here where all of this customer data leaks, because then we have to shut down the whole company. There will be a PR nightmare if our data is not secure. And so that is the space that we focus to target,
Yeah.
to help companies realize the potential of AI, but not like forget all of the like 50 years of engineering principles and focus.
Just out of curiosity, I would love to have like your take on this like vibe coding part. Is that, do you feel that it's a bubble and then it will explode and then we will go back to coding, or is it kind of like the coding itself is evolving in a way that kind of this like vibe coding space will be more secured and will do much better job in like maintaining the code, and then just kind of like moving on a more kind of actual and hard part.
I'm really hope that we will not get back to the way things were. Like I like uh, we use AI in everything. I code using AI almost everything. I think 80% of the code that I create is created using AI today. But it's sort of like that we create apps with AI. I think that's a given. And we will like this. This is the biggest productivity shift ever in humanity. I don't think that we will probably, you see some kind of like bubble tendencies in in the market around like startup evaluations and that sort of thing. And I don't have a good answer where we will end up. But I think even if we will have sort of a bubble in the AI space, we would not go back. I don't think there will be, it's like you had the internet bubble. It's not like we stop using the internet. It will just like have a little bit of setback and it will mature. But we will definitely never go back to not use AI to create code. But there will be the tools around it will mature. And I think some of the offerings on the markets are like false promises that, like, for example, that anyone can create a secure application without having to understand the code that actually created. Just emphasize on the thing that the LLMs are very much aimed to please. So they will, if you force them, they will create something insecure. It will solve the goal of like do what you want it to do, but it might miss. Like if you don't know what to ask the LLM for, there will be a lot of aspects of a vibe coding app where you are not, you're missing a lot of engineering practices that are still good practices. And in the end, I mean, there's some developers that are on the opposite spectrum of this, like that say, I tried AI coding before and didn't work. And I think then they are missing another point, and it's that LLMs and AI is a tool. And if you use a hammer wrong, then you will get the wrong result. So it's very much how you use these tools that the end result will depend a lot of how you use these tools.
That's true. That's true. I mean, like my last question in this like sales and marketing part is that, do you feel that because of this AI era, the go-to-market strategies have changed, and like the old school go-to-market playbook is not working anymore?
Yeah, I mean, definitely things have changed a lot. I think before in many of my previous companies, like lead generation and prospecting was something that was kind of hard and expensive, and things that we solved in previous companies. We made like in testing, we created a lead engine that kind of found the perfect person to give a call to ask if they needed a loan for their development construction project. That kind of thing today is so much easier. Like prospecting is kind of a solved thing. And then just like when things things like that gets too easy, it can, then everybody uses this, and then those strategies stop working. Like growth hacking has always been about like finding a strategy that nobody else does and use that. But then when everybody uses that same strategy, it stopped working. So yeah, it's you have to be it's more and more difficult to have, like, how do you actually, like, I can get the list of everybody that works with .NET in Stockholm in half an hour. I can make a perfect list with all the contact details for these persons, but then how do I actually contact? Because they are now getting so many LinkedIn messages and emails and calls, so people are not answering anymore. That is the next problem we have to do. How do we actually sell our products when people are so fed up with
Yeah.
startups?
Yeah, like it's super kind of like crowded space in any industry now, and you have to really be so clear and so smart with your like messaging and how to grab attention. That's I think kind of like it has always been the challenge, but now with AI, no, uh, other part of the journey is super easy, kind of like finding the leads, but then now it's more about how do you message and how do you actually communicate the values. So arriving to our ending part, I will ask some random questions, and then I would love to have your take on them. So my first question is that, what is the single habit or mindset that helped you the most as a founder?
I'm a notorious list maker. I make a list every day of these other things I'm gonna achieve today, and I just like cross them off. Yeah, get a lot of shit done, the right shit. That's my just take me one step further.
Yeah. Next one is that, who or what inspires you the most as a founder? Is it the person, a book, or even another product that inspires you?
I really like to hang out with other founders. So just surround myself with other founders in different ways, and share their war stories, share my previous experience, and get to hear what they're working on. So yeah, other founders, definitely.
Is there any other AI tool except Ivy that you cannot live without it now?
Claude Code. I would. You have to take Claude Code out of my dying hands. I use Claude Code for everything, for for marketing, I have a set of like MCP tools that
Huh?
together with Claude Code, I can do anything. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you were not building like Ivy, so what would you be doing now?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, I've done a few startup already, and after the IPO of testing, I'm kind of like, okay, what am I going to do with my life now? And had the opportunity to just not like have my private finances a bit settled. And yeah, I took like 2 years of a sabbatical. Not really, but I signed up for a CrossFit gym, and I remodeled my garage into a woodworking workshop, and I played around a lot with AI. But then yeah, I just came to the conclusion that this is too boring. I need to start a new company. And I did like a list of few things that I were interested in. Ivy was on these lists. And yeah, I ended up just locking myself off in I worked from my cabin, as you can see here in the back, and just locked myself here for a month and just came up with like the prototype for Ivy. And then I said, this is cool. I need to make this into a company. And yeah, got myself a co-founder, and yeah.
You have built years. So are there some avoidable mistakes that you can, tell to first time founders, just like to not repeat these mistakes, as you learned it yourself as a first time founder some years ago?
Yeah. I think there is many, because we could do it like an hour podcast on all my previous mistakes. I would say two things. Choose your co-founders very wisely. I've been very lucky in this aspect. And sometimes can be just luck that you end up with the right co-founder. But I've heard so many horror stories from other founders where like a bad co-founder can just ruin the entire company. In the same way, protect your cap table. Like choose your investors the same way. A bad cap table can also ruin the company. I can also do like a 1 hour podcast about cap table design. So, but yeah, and also like think about your company culture, like and be mindful of how that evolves, and who are you hiring and who are you firing, and really make sure to be in the driver's seat of your company culture. That's in the end is probably going to define how successful your company turns out, and like who you in the end are able to hire. And yeah, company culture is super important, and something that early stage founders like my first companies maybe didn't really succeed with in that in some aspects.
Great, great. Thank you for sharing. My last question is that what do you do on the weekends? Okay. Same like us.
I try to not work like so much, but I do quite a lot of work in the weekends as well. I do a lot of mountain bike. Yesterday I was I had a really nice mountain bike ride with a friend in Nacka.
That's nice.
So that was nice. And I also try to spend time with my family, of course, my two teenage daughters that I try to do fun things with as well. But when they don't want to hang out with me, I go to my cabin here and I code.
Keep building, keep building. Thank you so much, Nils. It was kind of like super fun like having you here. So I hope to see you in person as well. Thank you for joining us. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thank you.